Hello and welcome back, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me here again for another session of the Certified Financial Education Instructor Training. Today is a really fun day. We have a lot to cover, but it's one of the topics we're going to spend some time on. It's one of my favorite ones to discuss. I want you to think of today as not just an educator, but a multi-dimensional educator that looks at the big picture. We're going to start talking about the holistic approach to teaching financial literacy. Before we get into that, we're going to spend a few moments and recap some of the lessons that we've already learned. In addition, we're going to add in a few little pieces that I think are important nuggets for you to understand. First, let's do a recap. When we first started this training, the first things that we talked about was the financial literacy epidemic. We did this because if you're teaching kids, we know how to proactively help them avoid many of the problems people are facing. If you're teaching teens or adults, you know how to help them get beyond some of the problems they may have already. We talked about various financial cycles, how people get into problems, and the biggest cycle on how this starts is fear and lack of knowledge. That is rampant. Most people never receive a practical financial education. They don't know about it. They don't know their credit scores. They don't know how to budget. They don't have any goals. They don't write things down. There's fear and lack of confidence. That leads them to freezing or acting fast. Then they make a mistake or have a lucky success. Either one will send them into another negative cycle. Now, if we replace that fear and confidence with knowledge and a sense of confidence, then they are better positioned to make logical decisions. We talked about how improving one aspect of personal finance can improve other areas and how they are all interrelated. To give you a reminder, let's say we'll help somebody reduce their debt. How can it improve all their other aspects of their life? Well, maybe they'll be able to save more. They'll have more assets under their own personal management. Maybe it improves their credit. Now, when the cycles work in a negative way, the exact opposite happens. Let's say they have messed up credit. Well, their interest rates increase. Their debt increase. That's the negative cycle. You learned about how financial literacy has an impact on many aspects of one's life. You know by now that whenever we talk about money with our participants, we're bridging that lifestyle and how it truly impacts their life. What are those ways it impacts their lives beyond just money? Because again, thinking about a few extra zeros at the end of your bank account doesn't motivate most people to take action. But when they start to think about the things they could do with their family, the things that they can do and experience in life, living their goals, their dreams, the feeling of security and well-being, those higher values, those higher emotional states, that's what the true motivator is. So again, whenever we're teaching money management, we bridge that gap with the ability to live that desired lifestyle. We talked a lot about financial psychology. By now, you should know how important financial psychology is in teaching money management. In fact, we spent 2 days on this instruction. Again, anytime we're teaching money, there's that deep psychological connection to it, unlike any other subject. Even with our kids today, they're being exposed to the news. What's out there on the front page of the news these days? Economic problems, worry, stress. With our adults, many of them have gone through these problems themselves and they've built up some walls or some barriers. Or maybe they have the opposite effect. Maybe they've been handed everything in their whole life, and now they want to break free from that type of mold. So psychology plays an important role in everything we do, and it's important. You as an instructor really has to start to relate with your audience. Again, being able to relate is one of the biggest traits of a successful financial educator. We talked a lot about how financial mindsets are formed. I won't get into it too deep here. But I always find it interesting that we still don't teach kids about money when we know from a young age they're going to develop habits that can carry with them their whole lives. Those of you who are working with adults see the problems that can manifest from poor financial habits. You've discovered how financial mindsets are formed. They're reinforced through their peers, through what we watch, through our associations. Again, I mentioned that everybody is a Joneses these days. If you remember that expression back in the 50s and 60s, keeping up with the Joneses, social media has expanded the Joneses. Look at your friends' Facebook postings, and you're likely to find your friends are posting pictures of their nice cars, their nice dinners out, and different things like that. Nobody's showing the hard work it took to get there or the average night just staying at home. We discussed emotions and how this has an impact on people's financial decisions. Again, remember those stories I shared about fear? How people freeze? How often greed often controls people as well? But the freeze one is especially important these days, especially for you, the ones that are working for the underserved, the people that haven't had this type of education before. Many people, many adults that are in the financial recovery stage, they have a lot of emotions tied to it. Even with kids, they're seeing their parents argue, fight. They're stressing about money. It's a big thing. So again, realize when you're talking to your audience that they're going through things that you may not completely understand. But if you went through those exercises we talked about before, like writing the story about your participants, relating with them, maybe looking at their old yearbook, if you're working with kids or teens, stepping into their life for a moment, that will be very helpful and will help you connect with them on this level. We talked about measurement. This is an important area that many overlook and will help you stand out as a certified financial education instructor. How else are you going to be able to explain your success as an instructor in quantifiable ways? It's important. I want everybody, when you're out there teaching classes, utilize a pre and post test. Get out there and make sure you're getting those surveys. Take those steps. It sets you apart and it can be used to improve our effectiveness as an instructor. It helps you be prepared. It helps the students recognize their accomplishments. And for those of you seeking sponsorships and grants, this is something funding sources want to see. Understanding the participants, we talked about this a lot. The needs, the motivators, the current knowledge level, what they'll face, and this is all a recap of all passing. So I'm going to get into a new step here in a minute, and I'll let you know what student guide page number we're on. As far as the measurements, we gave you another way to measure and quantify the success of your program, and it also helps you set goals. So right here, if you're just having a very short class, maybe you want to get them to the comprehensive type level. Maybe if you're there with them for maybe 10, 12 weeks, or have more in-depth professional level training, maybe you can get them to the synthesis in the evaluation level, but utilize this. We talked about quantifying somebody's psychology so you can actually assess them even before they get into the class using the trans-theoretical model of behavior change. Again, this is a framework. So when you're interacting with a student, a participant, live, you can easily classify them into one of the stages of change so you know how to talk to them best. Ideally, if we could do some surveys or meet with them prior to class, that's the most ideal situation. That way you're prepared when you enter the classroom to deliver a presentation, so you do it in a way that best meets their needs. If you're not, or if you don't have a chance to do a survey or anything like that, it's important that you understand this model clearly enough so you can immediately assess it when you get into the classroom. You learn the importance of getting feedback from the class and how you're going to adjust your learning style to accommodate their needs. Again, our role as a financial educator is to serve our participants in a way that they need. I hear a lot of people and a lot of time the teachers say, oh well, if they don't want to learn, fine, forget them. That's completely wrong. A certified financial education instructor, your primary responsibility is you. You have to make sure the class is educated. If they're in the pre-contemplative stage where they don't want to learn, it's up to you to make sure that you're addressing that in a proper way. A class may not be the best thing for them. Maybe a longer-term awareness strategy. Again, the responsibility is on you to make sure that the class and the participants within there are successful in our move to take action. Also, I want to point out again that when we're talking about anything deep within the classroom and we're asking participants to do something, an activity or something where they're writing down something like a goal, their budget, a net worth activity or anything like that, I always make them feel secure by saying something like, everything you write down is personal. I will not ask you to share this information. This is sensitive information that many people don't want to share. By ensuring your audience's information is private, it reassures them and they will write down more accurate information. For those of you that teach multiple class sessions, as the class becomes closer, more people volunteer to share their private information. This often opens up the class into sharing the information as well at their own pace. You know now that it is vital to set classroom goals. Utilize Bloom's taxonomy of higher order thinking skills and depth of knowledge to provide a framework for your goals. Include these in your reports, in your goal setting, within the classroom, when you're going through instruction. Start thinking about, where are the students here? Are they able to utilize this? Can they take away what I've learned and apply it in different areas of their life? Think about this. It will help you as well when you're going through the activities and different things in the curriculum, because you're going to be able to make those adjustments and add those little pieces that you think will help take them to the next level. Together, we spent a lot of time providing tips to teach financial literacy effectively. We talked about Gardner's theory, which is how people have different learning styles. Think about that as you practice your presentations. We talked about dreams and lifestyle and how important it is to integrate them. Again, money with dreams, lifestyle, overall big picture, value and goals. We talked a little bit about neuro-linguistic programming and the importance of understanding the values and beliefs of your audience. You probably notice a theme which a lot of us, what we do as financial educators, is about understanding your audience. Make sure you're taking the responsibility and taking the steps you need to be prepared and making sure that you're actually acting like a professional in setting these frameworks. Not only will it improve for yourself as an instructor, but also when developing your post-program reports. You learned about combining sales and marketing techniques with education. We spent quite a bit of time on that, so I'm going to recap it here. Again, the first step is understanding the needs, the desires, and the goals of the participants and bridging that over. Aligning in the presentation to showcase it with really heavy benefits-driven statements that connect money to the dreams and lifestyles and the goals of your audience. You learn the importance of offering a solution and timing your close on times of high emotions. The last part of the section you learned was how to take feedback and sometimes criticism. After every class, review the surveys and try to make those tweaks and improvements to the overall system. Mark Zuckerberg said Facebook is in constant state of beta. You should commit to always being in the constant state of beta, always seeking to improve, tweak things, and modify things. So it's always reaching to that next level, which is critical as educators. We talked about the student experience. Creating a program that aligns with the students. It takes, again, understanding your audience, creating the draft, creating the program within your audience, really important point. Developing the program and paying attention to how those you are serving like to learn and the different ways you can do that. Get creative, get fun. Try things in scheduling the program. Make sure you're scheduling it with your users in mind. Then we talked about our philosophy, the NFEC's education philosophy, which starts with motivation, which is a critical element. That is especially true to get them beyond the emotional or psychological barriers. We need to get them motivated. The engagement piece, real critical. How do we engage an audience? How do we interact with them? Questions, games, activities. What can we do to engage them? The education piece, always very critical. It boils down to delivering practical information that they can use, and the movement to action, always our big thing. One of the huge differences of the NFEC is our focus on that movement to action. Again, you guys are going through this course now. If you don't teach a class for 3, 4, what are you going to have to do? Go through this course again as a refresher. But if you have a class set up, and I know you will right after this course concludes, it will help you use the information you learned. Again, most financial education programs out there focus on the middle two, the engagement and education, which is great. What separates us, what separates you as a certified financial education instructor is you know how to motivate. Get people beyond those barriers and get them to take action. One of my favorite books, Good to Great. I actually think you all should read it. But here he gives an image of a big flywheel. So picture this big flywheel, just let's say a concrete wheel, 1,000 pounds. The first few times you try to push that 1,000-pound wheel, even though it's a circle and it will roll, it's hard to push. It's hard to get that momentum. But once you get that little first inch of movement, then it gets easier because the momentum starts to carry it. You have to actually do less effort and you're getting more results. That movement to action is critical. Let me tie in how that works. When you get students to take that first little action step, the next one will be easier. The next one after that will be even easier. especially when they're seeing success and they're building that positive momentum already, and they're already understanding the benefits and the reasons that will benefit them personally and in their life. This is going to be new material here now, and I'm going to be talking about the lessons that we cover and we think they're essential. Today, we're going to discuss the holistic approach to teaching and promoting financial literacy. This is a real important topic, and this is something we coined. This holistic approach is something that came about from feedback. We had started to get emails from parents saying, "Hey, you told my kids this? Is this true?" And whenever you get multiple questions as education professionals, you need to have that inquisitive nature and try to figure out why and how you can expand your programming. What we found is with financial education, when we're teaching kids about money, this transfers up to the parents. So typically, parents are teaching kids how to walk, how to use the restroom, how to talk, how to deal with all that fun stuff that parents do. But with financial education, most parents were never taught. Most parents don't talk to their kids about money because they're uncertain. So we found that education traveling up to the parents. So we started to think about financial education on a broader scope.
The holistic approach creates the support of people that supports the development of our end user. So if a kid is our end user, who can we bring in? Maybe the teachers, maybe the administrators, maybe their church or softball league or whoever. We can bring in all these types of people into the training program. So adults, who can we bring in? Well, maybe their spouse, kids, or key family members. A huge problem among couples is lack of communication between their spouse and husband, or a husband and wife, or a wife and husband about money. It's not talked about. We play an interesting game that demonstrates the lack of financial communication between couples. We sit down partners back to back and we have them list their top 10 financial goals and life goals too. We have them list them in order of priority. After they write out the order of their goals, we have them show each other. The vast majority of times we have done this activity, the results are way off. We had a couple where the wife listed taking care of her aging father by moving into her childhood home. But the husband had planned to live apart, basically part of their time overseas. We had another couple where their goals seemed almost opposite. What we learned is that there is very little communication between couples and the family units. This often leads to problems, so we seek to bridge that gap of communication and help families develop clear financial goals. This helps them work together. They support each other and celebrate their accomplishments together. If you choose to implement this game, word of caution first. Make sure you're choosing people that participate and give a disclaimer before. For example, if you're going through any fights or stress in your relationship right now, don't do this activity because you need to be in a good state and be able to communicate with your partner. Or take this activity to a professional therapist. Some of you might be laughing, but I've seen people actually argue and get in serious problems because their financial and life goals weren't aligned. You need to be very, very careful because emotions play a big part, especially in relationships. Moving on. With our seniors, who can we enlist? Well, their kids. Who's going to take on that role in their finances after they pass? That's really important. I know after a personal loss of my grandfather, it took my family a little bit to know where everything was put together and where these different accounts were, who were managing them, etc. So if we can create that communication and list those people to communicate, it will help that process. Besides communication and gathering support, how else does the holistic approach help? One of the key benefits is that it increases the reach and frequency of the education. Now these are advertising terms. Reach means how many times or how many people we can actually reach, so it's the number of people that we impact with our program. Frequency is the number of times they hear that message. If they hear something from me as an instructor, and then their teacher, their mom, their coach, they've heard it 4 times. Many marketers suggest that you get your message in front of somebody at least 7 to 10 times in a year for your brand to start to get through. Again, we like to combine education and marketing to produce positive financial behaviors when we're educating, because the more frequency we can expose them to the lesson, the more they're reminded, the more they understand it, and the more they're thinking about it. This added repetition will help them take action on what they've learned. Expanding our reach helps to get more people interested in learning about money. Not only can this help us promote financial wellness to the masses, it can also help our participants. If we can reach people in their support group, as covered in the last section, it will help your audience expand their support group. We've seen great results when families work together toward improving their financial capabilities. The holistic approach helps us build relationships, not only with the end user, but with groups, with organizations, with teachers, with the people that support the development of your target markets. That's what we've been talking about since the beginning of the course. Now we're expanding your vision. The vast majority of financial educators don't think like this. They're thinking, how do I improve myself in class? Let's expand that thought to how you can make a bigger impact in your audience's financial capabilities. This involves enlisting others to support your efforts. I want to share a real quick story about a guy named John Sally. A real good guy, a 4-time NBA champion, hosted the best damn sports show. Just a really good guy. The first time I met him was at a Starbucks to ask him to take part in a financial literacy event. Within the first 5 minutes of meeting him, he committed doing our event. At first I didn't believe him. I thought, okay, why? This guy has a lot going on. He has a lot of businesses going on. If you look at johnsallyfoods.com, he has some cool things there. He has a lot going on. So why would he commit in 5 minutes? And then, he started to share his story. Basically his story, how he got out of college and then got into the NBA. He was making $100,000 a month. A few years later, he looks back and he realized he was just spending $140,000 a month, or whatever the case may be, but way over. So he had a personal reason to be there. The neat thing about financial literacy is most people have either gone through problems or seen people that have gone through problems. So it's easy to enlist them in a holistic approach and get that support you need.
There are many benefits to taking a wider view, a holistic approach to your financial literacy initiatives. You can make a greater impact and build deeper relationships with those you serve and their support group. You'll see higher test scores and have an engaging program that attracts others to your initiative. Let's take a look on how to develop a holistic financial literacy initiative for the various age groups. We'll take a close look at who's responsible for picking up the knowledge and those groups that support their learning.
With kids, it's the parents' responsibility to teach them about money. Let me repeat, parents, it's your responsibility. You need to teach your kids about money. If not, you're setting them up for a lifelong struggle. Parents always say, I want the best for my kids, yet they don't teach them about money. I know it's a heavy responsibility, and I know you have a lot of stuff going on, but you need to teach them about money. Major problem today. They're not talking about money. They talk more about sex than money. You need to talk to them about money. So for kids, parents, you are the primary responsibility. Secondary is the individual. I believe in personal responsibility. The kid, if the parents are sharing it in a way, the kid needs to take action, and then the parents need to discipline them properly if they're not. The support roles are the community and the school. Most people shift this responsibility to the schools. I agree that schools should teach this, but you know as well as I do that budgets are tight. They have all these testing standards that they have to live up to in order to get funding, and there's some ridiculous rules going out there that will prohibit them, and basically makes it very tough to get through. So right now, parents, it's your responsibility for kids. When we get them to the teen and a young adult stage, then we're putting the training wheels on the bike of the teenagers. It then becomes their responsibility. Sometimes parents will baby their kid all the way up until they leave home, and then they're on their own. Fortunately, when it came to money and finances, my parents did help me in the best way that they knew how, especially in my teen years. My dad gave me a lot of books, a lot of reading material. He did put that responsibility on me, and I felt that shift. But it's really important that teens and young adults take that responsibility on themselves, and the parents are there to encourage, to facilitate, and also to monitor and make sure they're taking those steps. Make it a requirement that they take a professional level financial education course before they go to college, before they move on to the real world. The parents have more of that authoritarian, hey, you need to do this or there's consequences, but putting primary responsibility again on the teenager. Then again, we have the community and the school in this support role. For adults, again, primary responsibility is the individual. Secondary is the family. If you have a significant other, we really want to make this a team effort, so that individual should be my spouse or whomever it is that you're in a relationship with. That should be something you work on together. Now typically one person usually leads the charge on that. So it doesn't have to be a completely equal type thing when it comes to who's handling money or who's making those decisions, as long as those are thoughtful, thought through, and discussed openly. So you don't have that situation where, again, the husband wants to sail the world, the wife wants to take care of her father, or whatever that situation may be. The leading cause of divorce is money. Doesn't need to be that way. There are very simple things we could do to help people avoid that. Also, for all of you that are working with adults, share with them their responsibility to teach their kids about money. In fact, I would encourage you to use the Family Money Talks presentation to encourage them to start having those important conversations concerning their personal finances with their kids.
The good thing is most people want to learn about money. Yes, you do get some that are in the lower stages of the trans-theoretical model that may not be ready to change right now, but for most people, they understand how it can benefit them. How many of you wish you were taught about money? If you're anything like our audience is, most of your hands are in the air now. Since most understand the benefits of learning about money, it's easier to enlist the audience and the people that support the development of the target participants. So we have people that want to learn and people that are supporting them that understand the importance of this. We have it all the momentum in our favor. We have the wind at our backs. We are being pushed forward.
Look at these statistics. About 90% agree you need to have good money habits to be successful. They understand it's important to live within one's means. Almost 90% agree saving and investing can lead to freedom. Who doesn't want freedom? Who doesn't want to take off 4 days a week instead of working 5, or whatever that number may be? Bottom line, taking more days off, having more freedom to do the things you want. Live that lifestyle you want while you can experience life. You can go out there and do these things you dreamed about. Question. I'm going to pause right here. As people get older, at least it's been in our experience, the less interested they seem to be in money. Why do you think as people age are less interested in learning about money compared to working with maybe some teens and young adults? For some, they may feel it's too late. For some, they think they know it already. Then there are some people who don't want to face the realities that come with their current financial position. Others think it's too complicated. Many people have gotten used to bad habits and may not even recognize they are bad habits. They just don't want to make those hard decisions. They failed and they don't believe there's anything they can do about it. That's why if we can start at a young age and make sure that they're getting this information in and what we're building that positive momentum in their favor so they can have the confidence to where, hey, if they take a couple of hits, they're going to recover and it's going to have that confidence that they can continue to go on. And it's just critical. Again, it's kind of a sad thing, for me at least personally, when I talk to people in that state of despair, my heart goes out to them. I don't know what type of life they live, what experiences they've gone through, but I know people who have gone through some hard things out there. And again, it's our job to give them hope, to give them help to get beyond that. That's why, again, for those of you who are working with adults, it's going to be a little bit more challenging to get through those emotional, psychological things, but I commend you on it. Those working with kids, you're helping them avoid this. You're doing a huge service. Again, I think it can not only strengthen individuals, it also can strengthen the community and the country, but the world as a whole. This is the industry that can impact the world as a whole. If you look at all the major studies, stress-related, divorce-related, everything, what's at the top? It's money. If we could just improve those numbers just a little bit, it could have a significant difference. So thank you for all the feedback there.
I want to thank you again for being here, for completing this course. You took action and I personally commend you. And I know you're going to take these actions and utilize that in this class. It'll help you achieve what you're looking to do. You've taken the hard steps of taking the time to be here and participate in this course and have invested your money to become a better educator. Please incorporate what you learn. I talked about this many times, but teach a class as soon after the course as possible. Try new things. Review this training and the manual on a regular basis. Review your notes before you teach your first few classes. We covered a lot, so this will serve as a timely reminder. I've seen a couple hundred financial literacy presentations, and I know if you utilize what is in this coursework, you're going to be well above 90% of them, likely a lot more. Right now, you have the tools, the resources, training, and credibility to be an effective educator. Make sure you understand it. Make sure you present yourself in a way and understand the esteem you hold by going through this coursework. Before we close out, I would like to send a big thank you to Transamerica. Their support and passion for promoting personal finance made this training possible. I also want to commend you. You not only had the passion to order this program, you made it to the end. Kudos. You've set yourself apart from the average financial educator. Once you teach your first class, you're going to be building that confidence and understanding. So I thank you again from the bottom of my heart.